right, man. So
shall we get started?
Yeah, it's good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
This is our second attempt, and I'm glad we got you back. And it's one of those things where we've worked together quite a bit at this point. But you have this kind of public persona online, as your video game stuff, your modeling, and you have a lot more that's behind the scenes. So it was something that I was really interested in letting you kind of talk about more than just the modeling side of things. So tell everybody what your name is and what you do.
Well, my name is Charlie Matthews. Of course, that's my stage name because my real name is Charles Mijatovic, but since my dad was an actor for about 30 years, I couldn't take that because he is in the International Media Database. Otherwise, I'll be called Charles Mijatovic Jr. And I was like, no. Matthews is my middle name. People call me Charlie, family, friends, co-workers. But, I'm more of not just a model, not just a pretty face, but I'm also an entrepreneurship, day trader.
You do a lot of day trading.
Yeah. I will get to that later in the podcast.
Yeah.
A lot of crypto, and of course, Twitch streamer, professional gamer. Not too many people do that.
Yeah.
And cinematographer. I used to drone a lot.
You do still too?
Not really.
As much?
Due to the pandemic, with COVID, everything,
yeah.
It's been at a standstill. But, when I did travel all over the world, I always take it with me and take it between sets.
Got really good at it.
I got really good at it to a point where I did travel with a client in Iceland. And in between takes, there was a crew of like 7 people. We'd get in RV trailers.
Yeah.
And we would just drive along the coast of Iceland. And, of course, I did bring my drone at the time. And so when I was done shooting my look, the females go in, I'll rush to the RV, I'll take out my drone and start filming. I did eventually show to the clients, like, look, this is what I could do with the drone. I think you guys would really like this. And turns out 3 months later, when the campaign was out, they ended up using my drone footage for their video for their campaign. It was a campaign in Mexico called Lookbook. And so they ended up using my drone footage, which was absolutely
I never knew
amazing.
that. That's sick, yeah.
Yeah. So, that was definitely like unexpected because I just enjoy it as a passion. Like at that time, I really enjoy like sightseeing, traveling. And of course, as like when you travel as a model, you go to all these exotic places.
Yeah.
Exotic places, locations, and of course, bring my drone with me.
Yeah.
It's funny because one time I took it in Australia and flew it like above the cliffs, and then there's a big gust of wind that came in, and then my drone just flew all the way out to the ocean. I tried to reel it back in. I had no control over it, and I felt, okay, this is the end. I'm not going to see this thing. This is like goodbye.
Yeah.
But eventually I ended up getting it back. Like, I'm just like,
that's lucky.
Racing like back and forth. I'm like, damn, this is like one of my biggest investments at the time, like as a model.
They're not cheap.
They're not cheap at all. This was like a big investment. And so as I like reeling back, oh my God. And I had it on record. It was like, recording. And I had some amazing shots just along the coast of, I think it was Bondi Beach in Sydney, Australia. Mm-hmm. And you got all these like rock textures and colors in the rocks. And it was like amazing.
Yeah.
And so eventually I just edited it on my computer, and then I ended up dropping a trailer for it. And then people are like, oh, wow, this is amazing. We want to see more of this. And then I was like, okay. I started going all over Sydney, Australia, and just, getting clips of the areas. And I almost got thrown into jail at one time because I did something illegal. So I was
with the drone.
The drone,
yeah.
I flew the drone over the Opera House, and that's like
Oh
a
no.
big no.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's
So
like flying it over.
I was like, all right, you gotta risk it for the footage. So I was like in a park, and I was like inside a bush. I literally climbed into a bush and hide. And so I just got my drone and, you know, stuff like that. And it was like all the way up to like the Opera House.
Yeah.
Then these two kids behind me come. They're like, hi, mate. Oh, you're flying a drone? It's like, can we see it? I was like, yeah, come here. But we got to be quiet because I don't want to get caught. And so I flew it all over the Opera House and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden I hear like sirens, police security and stuff. And I just, all right, I got to get out
They
of
think
here.
it's like a bomb or some kind of like...
Well, they had a bomb threat a week before.
Oh,
that was
wow.
a thing. So this was in 2017. Yeah, they had like a bomb threat somewhere in the area or somewhere in Australia. And so I ended up getting that 30 seconds of footage, and it was like my best footage I got through like the whole trip.
They let you keep it?
They let me keep it.
They let you keep it?
Yeah. And it was a sunset shot during golden hour, and it was absolutely like beautiful. And behind the Opera House, they also had like the military warships.
Yeah.
Which was like pretty cool too. So I got, you know, captures of that, and of course the Australia Bridge, the Opera House, of course. But yeah.
We'll have to link that footage and just
I definitely show you that footage. It was absolutely.
I had
epic.
no idea, so I didn't know you were, because you're an internationally published model. You've been modeling for 10 years.
10 plus years.
10 plus years now.
Going 11.
I didn't know you were interested in. I mean, you have cameras and stuff, but that's a really unique thing to be interested in, the drone pilot.
You know, I think it just had to deal with, you know, during at that time, I felt like that was like, I'm hitting towards like, you know, my prime years when I was started to work a lot and travel, because of course I had a YouTube channel for about, I had about like 8 years, and I'll just do like video logs and stuff. And I always get the idea like, what can I do to take it to the next level and make it even more epic? Yeah. And I'm always looking at these like Michael Bay trailers with all the explosions, but unfortunately I wish I could do that with my YouTube trailers now. Yeah. But
you ever seen that scene in Super 8 with the kid by the train? The production value. You don't get
yeah.
You know, if only you were nearby.
But you know, at the time, like I was like in that mindset where I will do a combination of doing video logs on set and also drone shots, like, you know, cinematic shots, and do like transition stuff, because at that time that was a passion. Right. And it was something like I really enjoy. It's like something that I just do it for myself and just people getting to know more about me. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, during that time I was putting out like a lot of, you know, YouTube content and stuff. And I enjoyed it.
And you've always been, so like as long as I've known you and well before that, you've always been into the tech side of things and like, you know, getting in on doing, whether it's the gaming or the different things. So like, have you always had interest in that kind of stuff, or?
I'm a huge nerd, first of all. I love electronics, technology, and, you know, dating back to, I think when my dad got me my first Nintendo 64. Yeah. I think this was like in 97, 98. My first game was Super Mario. And so when my dad got it, you know, when I opened it up, I was like, oh my God, I felt like a kid in a candy store. Yeah. And then I remember my mom's look on the side, and my mom's look to my dad, you're like, this is doing? A very bad decision. Bad idea. I know Charlie, he's got that energy. He is going to be playing the hell out of it. Yeah. And I did. I was playing like 8 to 10 hours a day. And I'm like, Super Mario. And then, you know, my mom's like, oh, can I try? I was like, no. I got to beat this first. Yeah. And it's that was the Mario 64 when that came out. If you got one as a kid, if you were lucky enough to get one, it was like, that was the best. That was the best. It was, I think at the time was that. And then, of course, the Pokemon Red and Blue when that was
And then eventually GoldenEye and Super Smash and all those.
And that's what happened when I went over to my friend's place, and we would just rage in GoldenEye.
Yeah, that was your first experience with multiplayer.
First experience.
Yeah.
My friend would always cheat because you know that character Oddjob that's like always short, and you try to shoot it because you gotta point your gun at narrow down because he was like the best character in the game.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, you're cheating. He's like, pick somebody else like your height in the game where you could actually shoot the player. But yeah, I mean,
looking back on those now, those were rough compared to what we have now. But they were the best. They were just
for what it was back then.
Fun.
It was just pure enjoyment. And
you had to go over to someone's house.
Yeah. You bring your own controller, and if they had another controller, you would be lucky to have one.
You get the shitty one.
Yeah, I'll get the shitty one.
You get the good. Everyone had their favorite controller. My favorite controller was the gray one that I had.
The gray one?
Just because for some reason it had all of my good luck in it.
Yeah.
And then like if people came over, I'm like, you can have the blue one. You know, it's like
I was red. I got stuck with red. Red was mine.
Here you go. And then the third, if you're lucky enough to be third player, you get yellow.
Yellow. I had yellow too. I got, well, it was a limited edition yellow when I used to play this game called Hey You Pikachu. You remember that when you talk in the mic?
Yeah.
And it was like a Pikachu controller, and you tell, hey Pikachu, go do this. Oh, go get the fruit. And you just scream at it. He's like, you're not doing it, Pikachu. It's like basically you're talking to Siri.
Essentially, it was the 90s Siri.
It was a 90s Siri, exactly.
Yeah. And he never did anything that you said.
Never did anything. And I'm like, damn it, do something.
That was like the era of like Pokemon Snap. Like I just remember it foreshadowed me becoming a photographer maybe because it was just like
really
this really obsessive
oh my God.
like
so
wanting to take the best pictures of these stupid Pokemon. It was always like, and then it automatically grades you, which is the worst.
It grades, yeah.
So it's like none of that whole like, you know, when people say, oh, there's beauty in like the you know, the flaws and stuff, and it's like no, the computer was like fucking shit.
Maybe that was a sign that you're
crappy photo kid. You know, try again. No, eyes were closed. No, off center. No, it was just like they had all these rules that you had to, and essentially you had to have a perfect shot. It was looking straight at the camera, right in the middle, and there was all these like stipulations and rules on how you get like a good score, and none of that bullshit, like, you know, always off center, it's kind of cool because it's a little edgy. No, none of that. It was just straight on. So when you're dealing with these little controllers, you know, they weren't the most, if you ever played one recently, like going back, I was like, this is not like responsive. It doesn't like do it.
It doesn't, it's
like
not accurate.
And so it's like that anger that builds inside you when you can't beat it, you can't get it going.
Maybe that was a sign is that when you got started in photography, that was a sign like you're gonna become a photographer.
Then I took 20 years off, and then I got back into it. So when people ask me, I guess I could say, yeah, well, my first job was Pokemon Snap, and I got really good at that, and then I took, you know, a hiatus, and now I'm back.
And so how long did you get serious like in photography?
I mean, only the last couple of years. Yeah, very recent.
Because I know you've been doing it with a lot of like productions
and being involved in creative direction and production and music videos and photo shoots and all that stuff. I've done that for 8 years now.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like with all that experience you had with being behind the scenes productions,
lighting,
and of course you work with like a very well-known photographer as well, and he's like basically like your sensei, and he's like your mentor, and you know he helps you out with, you know, the lights, the angles and stuff like that. And I kind of felt like you learned that by yourself.
It's kind of fun now because now I'm able to be in a way like helping out on set more. I mean, I was always there and on the production side, that's a whole different thing, but we always had a lighting guy, and I would be helping him out, and then eventually I would be the one helping, I was the lighting guy. And over time, it went from me just doing what they were telling me to do for lighting, just put it here, put it there, to learning enough to be able to suggest things, which was really fun.
Right,
so being able to say, hey, what if we put it over here, and like it works and they like it, like that's a really was a good step. So then like it feels like now with what I do now, I'm able to kind of give back and like actually contribute more than like just a stand there and tell me what to do.
Exactly.
When you're young, you know,
Yeah.
you're just kind of learning and you're figuring it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I photography wise, I've always been interested in it. I liked it. I've always had cameras. I was more of a drawer and painter though. Like I did a lot of that stuff as a kid. So I never really was into photos. I was more into actually drawing.
Okay.
And you know, that kind of thing. It translates to some degree.
So so in other words, it's like in the same field as like entertainment business, arts, and
just things like that. And nothing that I wanted to do for a career because you know, it's like it's kind of drilled into people's heads.
I actually did drawing and arts in high school as well in one semester in college.
Yeah.
I used to draw. I love drawing cars.
Where did you go to school?
I went to Cal State Fullerton.
Okay. So you're right here.
Yeah.
Down the
right
street.
in the backyard, down the street.
I mean, he's went in Southern California. Not that we're here.
Yeah.
We're not in Fullerton.
No. Yeah.
So, you know.
I did that for
undisclosed location.
I did that for like one semester because I was playing basketball.
Yeah.
And tore my groin. And
you were playing basketball in college?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So my nickname was White Rodman, Dennis Rodman, because I was a player where I would defend really well. I would get the least amount of points, but I always put up 10 to 15 rebounds a game. Like I was just dominant for my size because timing things right. And I mean, I think that was like my very competitive side.
Yeah.
And I love to compete and challenge, you know, the bigger guy on the board.
And where did that come from? Where do you think that came from?
I think a lot of that rage started with my father, but during high school, my dad was very competitive, and if we're gonna get deeper into this, he was actually an abusive alcoholic, like really like abusive alcoholic. But when he was sober up, he was a good father.
Yeah,
he was definitely a good father, but he had this extreme competitive level. Like if you look at like Kobe Bryant, how he competed just for the love of basketball. Well, my dad, his goal was for me to become either a professional baseball player or a professional basketball player.
Do you think he was trying to live through you, or why do you think he was so hard on you?
He was so hard on me because he didn't want to make the same mistakes as he did when he was a child, because he grew up very poor. He was pretty much homeless, like from ages like 13 to 17. He grew up in the south side of Chicago, which is like one of the roughest like neighborhoods. He had no mother growing up, no father. He had just an uncle who would kind of like guide him. So his childhood was really bad.
Yeah.
But he never wanted that for me. He always looked at me as like, I want to give you the best childhood. But up until high school, things got really, really dark. And it got to the point where I was playing at 4 ball clubs at once for the first 2 years. Wow. I would wake up 6 a.m. I would go to basketball practice, the tryout, like the summer camp. And then after that, I would go straight to the other side of the field and I'll practice for baseball. And then 2 hours later, I would go to travel ball and travel league. I was playing for this team called Anderson Arsenals. And before that, I was playing at El Dorado. You know El Dorado? It's in Placentia. That's the school I went to.
Okay.
I was playing El Dorado baseball. I was playing El Dorado basketball. I was playing on the Anderson Arsenals as a pitcher. I was lefty. And then later in the night, we were playing City League champion, Yorba Linda. It was like the Yorba Linda CCIB like Division I tournament.
Yeah.
So I was doing that for about 2 years at one point, and it got to the point where my body just got exhausted.
Yeah.
And my dad would come back with this excuse like, no, it's not good enough. And whenever I didn't perform, he would beat the shit out of me. Like, he's like, you got to do better. And this is what transitioned into like alcohol, like alcohol for him. And when wow, this is dark. I didn't know I was going to get to this point. But whenever I performed well, which is I performed pretty well every like travel team. Like I was getting to the point where I believe I had a shot of, going to, the semi-pros or maybe the pros possibly, because I was getting to the point where I was getting like really good. But then again, my body was just exhausted.
You're tired.
I was tired.
You were playing 4 at one time? Four teams?
4 teams. This was on Mondays, Wednesdays,
how old were you exactly?
Friday, and Saturdays.
You were in high school?
I was probably, I want to say, around 14 or 15.
So you're growing. You're tired from that.
I'm growing. I'll start to get injuries. But whenever I performed really well, my dad would just make a fool out of himself. It was like, oh, my kid's better than your kid. And then my mom's come aside and he's like, Charlie, stop. You're embarrassing her son. I was like, I don't give a fuck. My kid's the best. He's going to the promised land. And, I could understand his competitive side of things. But when you get to that point and you doing those kind of stuff, it's absolutely wrong. It's terrible. And then whenever I get home, then I'm going to hear like the rest of it where, he like his whole mind was just like, oh, he's going to go pro. He's going to go pro. And he's like, F these parents, F these politics. These coaches are not doing right. Why do they put Charlie in the 8th lineup? And just stuff like that. But, for me, like my mindset was like, I just want to get out of this way. I want to enjoy the things that I love. And whatever my parents would argue downstairs, which was like pretty much every night, I never had a getaway to do things, and I would hear it downstairs, and I never had a lock on my door, so I would take my bed and I'll just put up against the door, and my dad would just bang. He's like, what the hell are you doing there? Get out of your effing room. I need to talk to you now. And it's like, we're going to the batting cages at like 10 o'clock at night, and you need to do this and that, blah, blah, blah. But I just need to find an escape route, and I didn't know what it was. But one day I went to a friend's house, and he had this game called Halo 1 on Xbox. You remember that?
Changed everything.
You remember that?
Changed everything.
Oh boy, game changer.
Yeah.
Game changer. It got to the point where I'll just sleep at my friend's house, and we would just play the crap out of that game all night. It's like 4 of us doing 2v2 and be like, stop looking at my screen.
Yeah.
And
so back then you had to still at that point, because you had Xbox Live, I think, coming around the corner, but I don't know if it was
next year.
And so you had to go to your friend's house and either play on the same screen, or you could connect to 2 systems.
Exactly.
And be in 2 different rooms, which is what we would do sometimes with like
exactly.
a lot of people. But you could essentially, when you're playing on the same screen, you could kind of cheat. You could see where they're going, kind of, change, if you're good enough to have 2 different ways of looking at it.
No, definitely. And the thing is, like where I grew up, my mom was working at apartments and townhouses, and that's where I was living. So I could literally walk like 2 minutes to my friend's place, like on the other side of the complex.
So it was right there. It may as well have been in your living room.
It could have been the way. Well, all right, back to the situation with my, parents, my job and stuff. So my mom manages, apartments and complexes. And with her contract, it's like, okay, we could stay here for free. Expenses covered, apartment, we don't have to pay rent, utilities, gas.
Yeah.
But, later down the road, I'll tell you when we get to that point. So back to like the video games. So now it's like, all right, what can I do to make money if I want to get an Xbox and Halo 1? So I started knocking at people's doors, and I'll be like, hey, are you looking for your, weeds pulled out of your backyard? It's like, I'm charging like, $25 to $30 for the day. And they'll be like, yeah, of course. I'll knock on every door, and I was a hustler. I'll do whatever I can. And I love to work. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed like
You liked having something to do.
Having something to do, and that was kind of like relieved as a kid, especially like with my mindset at 14. I love to work and negotiate. And then I'll wash people's cars. Like, do you need your room to be clean and stuff like that? I'll do it with my friend, my childhood friend, and we'll just we started getting a bunch of people, and we ended up making like $150 for a week, which is a lot as a kid.
Yeah.
That's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah. And then my dad invited me to a baseball game, Cal State Fullerton, and he got wasted. And so, so I always ask for, can I get something to eat? And he's like, yeah. Here you go, $25-$30. And in my mind, it's like,
it's $2 for a hot dog.
I could actually get an Xbox and Halo faster this way. So I was like, okay, Dad, this is this carnival game I want to try, and I need some money. He's like, here you go. Here's go. Another $25. I did that like 2 or 3 times, and he didn't remember. He's like, I count the money. He's like, okay, I got enough money to buy it. And I wouldn't tell him I would buy it. Yeah. I would secretly hide it, because if he would find out I had it, he'll snap it in half. He thinks, because that time he thinks like video games were brainwashing me to have a baseball, basketball career.
Yeah. You're ruining your life.
Ruining my life. Yeah. Ruining my life and stuff.
Ruining his life.
So, fast forward 6 months later, I ended up getting an Xbox, and I was debating to get Halo 1 or 2. And then I think Halo 2 was out for like a couple of years already. This was like 2006, 2007. It was before Halo 3. Yeah. And so I was like, all right, Xbox Live, baby, here we go. Now I get to play with my friends online. I get to play with the neighbor next door. And we just started playing. And started practicing. It's like, damn, I actually got really good at this. And so I enjoyed like a community online where we get to practice for tournaments. And I started playing, and I was just dominating. I was just putting up like number strategies, like, wow, like I'm actually getting good at this. And then I played game battles, which is like online tournament for like cash prizes. I did an FFA tournament. I took first place, and I won $500. And I was the happiest kid in the world.
If only it was one of those tournaments that gave Bitcoin.
Oh my God.
50 Bitcoins or 150 Bitcoins.
Oh, man. We would have been billionaires.
I'd seen some old flyers and tournaments of games and things like that. And it's like, first place is $500, second place is $200, third place is $50. And then, everyone else gets Bitcoin.
I think I saw like one of your posts a while back where there was an advertisement, if you sign up now, you get a free Bitcoin. Right. And if they did that today, it's like, free $50,000. Right. No, this has to be a scam.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So I started practicing, game battles, and I got really good to the point where, okay, now they have MLG LAN tournaments, Major League Gaming, $100,000 cash prize. And the first tournament was MLG Anaheim 2006, and I got into top 15, ranked number 12 in the world as a Halo player.
Wow. And
I felt like, man, I actually got really good at this, and I would practice hours at a day. It wasn't unhealthy, but long story short, it's deep, but long story short, that was like my escape route of not hearing my parents argue. I found something I loved, found something I enjoyed, and that was my escape route, was video games and Halo. So whenever I think of Halo, I think of the past of my parents. I just feel like I had maybe some kind of connection. That's why I'm like obsessed with Halo, and I feel like emotions about it in a way, like I'm attached to something, because I look back at that as like that was my childhood, and this is what I really enjoyed, and this is what made me happy during my darkest times.
I think everyone has, especially if they're into gaming, or if they have, even if they just played games growing up, they look back on it with fond memories, and they look back on it with that nostalgia of just what a good time.
The memories.
For you, it was that escape.
It was the escape that I needed, and it got to the point where I didn't come out from my room for like a year. My friends were asking me, "Where are you at?" "Oh, he's playing Halo." "Oh, well, he's playing Halo for cash. I mean, not for free."
Yeah.
But yeah, I got good at it, and Halo 3, I continued that way, dominated, won cash prizes, went to GameStop tournaments, dominated, and then.
Did you ever wait? Were you ever one of the people waiting outside for the new game?
I was.
Yeah, which one was it?
It was all the Halos.
All the Halos.
I think one Call of Duty. I think it was Call of Duty World at War.
We talked about this a little bit before. Was around this time, Call of Duty was just kind of in its, like, it was kind of starting. Before that had been Medal of Honor. And then there was a bunch of other games that were different genres and stuff, different things. But the Halo really changed the face of gaming, I think.
It changed the competitive of gaming for sure. And I think the prime time where, like you said earlier, between 2007 and 2010, I think that was the golden age of gaming with, of course, you love Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Star Wars games were coming out.
The
Modern Warfare,
the
Battlefronts. It evolutionized gaming, and it
had gone from being, and I love, Super Mario 64 and I love GoldenEye and I love those games, but this was the first time when it was immersive in a way that it sucked you in, and you were almost transported somewhere else. And for me and my friends, it was Battlefront and Battlefront 2 was, because I was a little earlier.
Yeah,
it was like 2004-05 was when we were really, really into it.
Yeah.
And Halo 2, so it was Halo and Halo 2, and then Battlefront 2 were like the big games. The Medal of Honor a little bit, but it didn't have as good of a multiplayer.
Yeah.
But back then it was just this, like, it was so fresh and so new, because now they're doing, they're either building on an IP, they're already doing it, or they're going back and remaking it, which is great. But it's not the same as when it's first, like that had never existed before. This was the first thing where you heard about this, even like, Battlefront and Battlefront 2 were attached to a movie or attached to a franchise, but like Halo was the first time when there was something in a very long time for games, back to probably Mario, that was released where it was not attached to anything.
Yeah.
It just became its own thing. And it wasn't attached to a movie. It wasn't attached to a franchise. It wasn't, didn't already have a fan base. It created one from nothing.
It's like a new era and generation, because you got, the Pac-Mans in the 80s, the Donkey Kong. Then you got this Super Mario 64, which is like a 3D
and they
world.
built on Mario, like they Mario
did.
built into the 90s, the thousands. They still today are strong, but like it's got such a long history. It's not that it's not good, because it is, and there's great. I love the Mario games, but it's when you're 12 and this new game comes out and it's never been seen before, that's yours. Like, it's your generation's thing.
Yeah.
And so, even now, like, as I haven't played Halo in a while. Yeah. But like, Halo 2 and Halo 3 will always be like I can just, I feel like I can just get, turn it on and go and be back. Like,
it was that game where you just never get sick of it. Yeah.
And especially that was the first time since like Super Smash Brothers, which we played in college too. It wasn't like it went away. It was always a good game, but it was the first time since that where the game just didn't age. Like, you could play it 10 years later and it's still fun.
And it's still fun.
And it had that social component. And games back then, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I just like feel like it's just nostalgia maybe, but Like today, games don't. There's always the download this, download that. If there's more coming, it's never like back then. You would get a game like Halo, and you would play it, and it would be amazing, and you'd want more, but you'd have to wait like 3 years, 2-3 years. It would just be that's it. There's no more to get. There's no more to download. There's no more. That's it.
They always try to do the DLC packs where
and so now
you
it's
probably
like,
have to go to a GameStop store. You got to get a code to
Right.
buy it just to get the expansions of the maps.
And some games get released and they feel like they're not finished because they're holding stuff back to sell you later.
Yeah.
Back then it was just like this game, and there was other games too. There was Knights of the Old Republic for me, and there was computer games that I loved, but like they were done, finished, and I could play them for months.
Yeah.
I could play them for 6 months and not get tired of it. And that's like my I don't know if you have the same ritual, but like for me, like Christmas Eve at night, like I'll always play like a little something.
Yeah.
From
my God.
From then.
That's
Just
like,
because
that's
just
like
to like
that's like
relive
the best
it.
time. Like Christmas
Just
Eve break out of
Thanksgiving
school.
night,
Yeah.
That was like when I was out of school, when I could just turn on this game and boot up my character or whatever it was, and then like play through. I don't play very much. I don't play a lot, but it just gives you that little bit of like happiness. Like, oh, this is like when I was in school. When I was off, I was off. I wasn't in school. I was out.
Yeah.
And
Get those 2-week breaks.
You had that break, and you had that time, and you have nothing going on. There's like no finals, no nothing. You're not worried about anything.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it comes from. It's like that's a time when, and if it was raining outside, even better. Like
that's
that
the best.
little
That's the best
extra.
day.
It's okay.
Oh, rainy day. Oh,
But
my
you
God.
add that little extra bit of playing a nostalgic game on a holiday and it's raining. It's just like, oof, it's just too much. It almost makes you go. It almost makes you kind of have like, and if you know what I'm talking about, that's like, there's nothing else like that.
I know exactly that feeling. That's like the best feeling.
Yeah,
best feeling.
There's nowhere to be. Got nothing to do.
Got nothing to do. It's like, oh,
And you
log on.
you're in a
You can't play
different
out.
world.
You can't play outside. You can't do
Yeah.
anything. It's like, oh, I'm just locked in my room playing video games.
Oh, it's raining. Okay,
Yeah.
well, I'll play video games then.
Yeah.
So, like I understand. I mean, for you, it was much more serious, obviously, what was going on around you.
Yeah.
But I understand that escape because sometimes it's like there's just that nice, that comes with it.
Yeah.
You're happy just to be in another world doing something with your friends.
It's like a breath of fresh air. And, past that, even when my parents got divorced, I continued on playing Halo 4, Halo 5, and of course, recently Halo Infinite. So,
yeah, that's something that, will always probably stay with you. Like just that.
Definitely.
That love for that.
I have so much love for that game because it's just like it dates back to like my childhood. It's like, man, this game has changed my life.
Yeah.
And that's the only game like I could really like enjoy, play the campaigns and buy memorabilia, watch the TV shows, the anime. It's everything.
Even if it's bad, you like it.
Even if it's
like,
bad,
it's like it's still happy.
It's like, even if it's bad, it's like, man, this is the shit. I fucking love it.
That's
like,
what I
this
feel
is
about.
good.
That's how I've always felt about Star Wars games. I'm like, I don't care if it's shitty.
don't-
It's a new game.
Exactly.
It's a new one.
game.
It's
Yeah.
cool, it's something. It's something.
As long as you got the Skywalkers in it, the Darth Vaders or the Master Chief,
all
it's
the
like
stuff and-
sold.
As long as I've got
Yeah.
something that brings me back a little bit. Then
Definitely.
It's fine. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
I don't think they're ever going to, catch lightning twice, so to speak, with like some of these games that are iconic and will never, be touched. It's kind of like movies. When you think of classic movies,
Yeah.
there's always going to be good movies that they make, but nothing will ever touch, this movie for me. Whatever it is.
The original.
The original,
Yeah.
or the and
Because
there's
now,
something special about that.
Because nowadays they're doing a lot of remasters. Like they're remastering the old games, get updated graphics.
And some of them are the games that I love, and so I'm like, if it was a lot of times it's just a straight remaster. They're just updating the graphics and fixing the widescreen and everything, and I'm fine with that. I'll give you more money.
I did a stream 2 years ago, 2020 during lockdown. Actually, I played 2 games. It was Detroit Becomes Human. Do you know that?
Yeah.
I played that where you're the robot human girl, and then you gotta figure out if you want to make these right decisions. Like, do you want to be the good guy or do you want to be the bad guy? And then that affects towards like the end. and then Life is Strange.
I don't know that one.
I played Life is Strange. So there's like there's 3 games, but I played the second one.
Yeah.
Which about like a brother and his little brother who's got powers, and they got, lost in the forest, and then they got to, find their way back, try to make these decisions, and of course it affects like towards the end.
Yeah. No, I mean, I there's something about those immersive games, and they're better than ever they have been today. So when they have those stories, when they do, because it's not as popular as the first person shooter still even today, but the ability to just have these long stories, it's so entertaining, and it keeps your interest for months.
It is.
It's just like you play for a few hours, and you've gotten a lot further, but there's so much to do.
So much.
And I love the fact that you can go back and play it again and see different things.
That's because a couple of years ago when I was streaming those games, I kind of want to push myself into not just playing just one game, but also explore other games. And if I don't like it, I won't play it. Yeah. I played the recent Marvel's Avengers game that came out last year, and I was like, no, I don't like it.
That's that escape that you were talking about.
Yeah.
And everybody, even if you're not going through something that's quite so serious, you like to escape your life once in a while. It's okay.
No, definitely. Like I always say, you just got to do something what you enjoy. That was kind of like an accident of something I enjoyed. Yeah. And eventually I had no idea that I'll still playing it today. I had no idea I'll still be, competing in this upcoming Halo Infinite tournament that's like next month for a cash prize. I didn't know if it was going to get to that point. And I'm still good at the game. I'm still a great player. Right. But, I guess just based upon like the experience of the games that I played in the past. And
do you think, so what I didn't realize was that you had come to the gaming stuff early, much earlier than I thought. Because I always had thought, well, you're into that now. You were modeling and going across the world. I didn't realize that it was such a formative part of your growing up.
It was a huge part of my childhood, and I still have that inner kid stuff. But there was a point where, when I got into this whole modeling world, for about 4 years, I actually quit gaming. I didn't play at all. Yeah, I was just more focused on that, and
So tell people how you were discovered.
So this was,
and put it in terms of what games you were playing at what time.
All right, there was a lot going back then. This was like, I would say 2012. I was playing Halo 4. I was bagging groceries at a grocery store, and then after that, I'll work at Hollister, as like a retail person. So I had like 2 different jobs. Yeah. Well, I'll do retail and also greeting as well. Okay. But mostly the grocery store. I had like my Justin Bieber hair, my ugly green apron, Stater Brothers.
I think you
posted
a grocery store.
Stater Brothers,
you posted with your long hair.
Yeah. Thanksgiving, selling pumpkin pie in front of the greeting cards, just giving out samples and stuff. Somebody snapped a picture of me with my, big smile, and photos leaked out on Facebook. And that's when my mother agent reached out to me. 2012. Holy crap.
What was that kid's name from Target that went viral?
Oh my God, I remember
You were essentially the first one then. You were that first.
I mean, I wouldn't say that.
You went viral on Facebook.
Well, he was more famous.
Yeah, but I mean, you did more with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he got on Ellen's show and a few other but he...
What? We're not talking about him. Yeah. We're cutting that out.
We'll cut that out. But, yeah, so I signed with my mother agent. Okay. And he had an agency in San Diego called Vander Models. But it was kind of like a manager / agency.
Like a scout or more like a...
Yeah, like the thing is, like, he was more of placing agent. It was like a manager, I would say, placing me to like agents and stuff. So, he would meet me with these agents in LA, and I went to see everyone twice. They all rejected me. Like, I just wasn't right at the time. I wasn't tall enough. I was in the best shape. You'll never be a model. And of course, that was like, the my last agency I was with for like 5 years.
Yeah.
Like, he even said that, but, we talked about it. He's like, I wasn't right at the time. I was so young and I just didn't know how to dress. Like, I would go to Tilly's because I love getting that skater look with the boardwalk shoes, the Dickies pants, Spitfire, Flame Boy and Wet Willie t-shirt with, the...
A SoCal kid. Yeah.
SoCal kid. I'll come with like board shorts.
A male Gwen Stefani. I mean, essentially.
I guess. And so I was just trying to get an agency and it was hard. And I did get offered to get an agency in South Korea. They were giving me a guaranteed $10,000 for 2 months because Asia is the only market where they offer you guaranteed contracts.
Interesting.
All right. Take notes for the upcoming new models, by the way. This is definitely
Japan, South Korea.
Because Asia is kind of like the high school of modeling where you build your tear sheets, get comfortable doing e-commerce, and, stuff like that. But at the time, I was living in Yorba Linda, and my situation got to the breaking point really bad. I stopped playing baseball. I stopped playing basketball.
Was it with your family?
It was my family. And so my dad did something to my mom in ways. And I told my mom one night where it's like, Mom, you need to wake up and do something. I can't live like this anymore. I feel trapped in a bubble. Whenever I bring my girlfriend over, my dad would, harass her. And if I ever bring friends over, they would, harass them. And it just got to the point where we actually got a notice and saying we had to move out and we had no place to go. We were pretty much about to be homeless, like nowhere to go. And the only family I got is they live in Switzerland and it's far and we can't. And we were at a breaking point. I didn't know what to do to help my mom. And so the only option was we had to file a restraining order against my dad.
Wow.
And so now it's just like, all right, this is happening when the South Korea contract came along. And then my mom, she was at her, breaking point.
These two equally opposite things. Something that's an exciting
it's
new
exciting,
thing and one
new.
thing that's just horrible.
Everything just, hit me at once. And, my mom decided to go to therapy for a couple of years and she met, her former boyfriend that they've been together for almost 10 years now. Very healthy relationship. I never see my mom so happy and I'm really happy for her. And so I told my mom, I was like, look, Mom, I'm not in the right mindset right now. I am pretty much broken inside. I'm just emotions. I got nothing. And I felt like my soul just left my body. And I told my mom and I was like, I'm going to pack my bags. I'm going to go to South Korea for modeling for 2 months. I quit my Stater Brothers job. I quit my Abercrombie job. I probably had maybe $2,000 saved up in my pocket just to live off of. She was freaking out. She's like, Charlie, I don't think you're going to do this as a model. I love you so much. I'm so worried about you. And, my aunt, and so I ended up going to South Korea. And my aunt called me one day. He was like, Charlie, are you okay? He's like, yeah, I'm out of Yorba Linda. He's like, Charlie, I didn't mean you to go from Yorba Linda all the way to South Korea. And you're like, I was thinking maybe go out of state, maybe New York City, maybe Miami, Pasadena.
Anything. Yeah.
But why in the hell are you going from here all the way to South Korea on the other side of the world?
She's feeling like
someone
had called her and said, what did you do? Yeah.
So got experience out there. My first big job was a Calvin Klein lookbook.
Wow.
Yeah. that was my most exciting job I ever did. I was like, yeah, yay, people are gonna see me in the catalog and stuff like that. So the first month I didn't work at all, but until the very last week, that's when I booked the Calvin Klein Lookbook.
That's great.
And then I booked the LG commercial, which was a good experience, but a nightmare. I ended up getting rushed to the hospital because I had hyperthermia.
So what happened there?
So the call time was at 4 p.m. at night.
Okay, so it was a night shoot.
It was a night shoot. It was on a 52-story building in the middle of winter in South Korea.
South Korea gets cold.
Very cold. That day was minus 10 Fahrenheit.
It's essentially like the cold part of Russia. Like it's right there. I mean, it's
similar.
People don't think of South Korea as being that cold.
I would never. Yeah,
freezing.
I would never forget that day. It's like I had to wear a thin piece of H&M shirt, and then we had 8 scenes to do. I had about like 5 or 6 assistants around me, and so once we started shooting, it was like at midnight, 1 o'clock. I would have like 5 or 6 assistants around me, covered in like these warm, those bags that you shake up and they get warm or whatever.
The little pellets.
The pellets. I had the blankets. So as soon as they got that off of me, then it's action, and I would have my phone.
Because you're advertising a phone.
I'm
right?
advertising an LG cell phone. So my phone, I'm just like shaking like this.
Charlie, can you stop shaking?
Exactly.
We need you to be smooth, please.
The director is like, can you stop shaking? Can you stop shaking? And then I'm just like, all right, I gotta breathe. I just gotta get through this.
I'm amazed they didn't have like a room right below booked or something where they could just have you waiting.
No, they make you wait at the rooftop.
That's bizarre.
They did have a tent with heaters,
yeah,
but that was it, and that didn't really
do it.
Yeah, because they want to get the shot right away. I don't know if it's something about like Asia in general, but they're very like particular, and they want to get things done as soon as possible.
Yeah.
So all right, we shot that all night. I didn't get home till about like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, and then I got rushed to the hospital because I got really sick to the point where
like pneumonia.
Pneumonia, exactly. And it took me a couple of days to start feeling better. So towards the end of my stay in South Korea, my contract, I didn't get the 10,000 guaranteed because it was tricky. Because in order to get the $10,000 guaranteed, you got to make $10,000 in jobs, and I missed it by $100.
Wow.
And there's like, I'm sorry. So you're only getting 50% of the guaranteed minus all the deductions. I was minus $11 from that trip, so I didn't make anything. You
lost $11.
$11, yeah. With all the expenses covered. Comp card fees, Klein.
Modeling industry, everyone.
Comp card fees, apartment fees, transportation fees. $300 just to see the client.
Yeah.
The comp cards were paper and a printer, not like the hard ones.
Just like just basic paper.
Basic paper. $800 a month.
You'd think that they would at least get some good card stock or something to fool you into thinking it cost $800.
Yeah. So I called my agent, and I was like, I just want to go back home. This is the worst experience. I'm just not feeling it. And he was like, no, we'll just try one more market. And I was like, where else am I going to go? Well, I'm pushing you to go to this agency in the Philippines, Manila.
Warmer?
Which is warmer climate, more tropic. And so I'm like, all right, we'll give it a shot. So went to the Philippines and went from 2 months all the way up to 6 months.
Wow.
And it was by far the best decision I ever made, because that's when things started to turn around for me. They didn't pay well, but I got some amazing tear sheets. I went to tropical islands.
Yeah.
They treated you like a king, because the Philippines, just the people are amazing. They're open. Everybody's really nice. The food is cheap. But as, a model working there, it's not the best. But, I made comfortable amount. And, I did a lot of work there, and then I got adopted a nickname, the Krispy Kreme guy. I ate a dozen of Krispy Kreme donuts for one of the biggest underwear photo shoot brands in the Philippines.
You were bold.
Yeah, and they're like, Charlie, no, stop eating, because I'll just go like where the food is, and I'm just like smell it like.
Yeah.
And then
had you been dieting or something, or were you hungry?
I ate so much.
Did we know why you ate so much food?
I just enjoyed it.
Oh, okay.
I would go down because I had a 7-Eleven before me, and I would get like a pint of Reese's ice cream, and I was like, man, it's so freaking good. Right now. I know.
Oh no.
They had.
I can feel it in my stomach right now. That little.
Yeah.
Like it woke up.
And they had this like place called Jayco's Donuts, which is like crazy flavors with like cinnamon toast crunch on top,
like a Voodoo Donuts or something.
Exactly. And then Jollibee, that was like the main food.
Jollibee. So back then, nobody would have known what you're talking about, but Jollibee is now everywhere. I've had it once. I've had it one time. There was one nearby.
I don't know if they serve. Do they serve like a cup of rice?
I think so. Yeah.
And like
the little burgers, the little.
I didn't have the burgers. I had their breakfast.
Yeah, I didn't have the breakfast. I had like the lunch, and it was like a bunch of little things.
Yeah,
it was good. I mean, it was it's
not
like
bad.
fast food.
Yeah.
It's like their fast food.
Yeah,
for me. That's what it. They had noodles.
Yeah,
I think they had noodles. If I'm mixing it up with something else, but I remember there's one near here somewhere.
Yeah. This was 2013, I believe. 2013. And okay, one thing I dreaded about during the Philippines is you had these crazy fashion shows like Runway.
What do you mean? Like, what was crazy about them?
What was crazy about it is you would get the craziest call times because you got to be choreographing and practicing all day. So the call time will be like 3-4 o'clock in the morning, and the show wouldn't start till like 7 or 8 p.m. They had models wait backstage.
What could they possibly be having you
They'll
wait
be like,
for?
okay, you wait backstage. They'll be like, okay. So it's not just like a catwalk show. It's like, one model walks opposite directions.
Okay, yeah.
He's smiling, change back to the other look. And I did about 2 or 3 of those a week. And for those shows, they paid about $45 to $50 a day.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's not very.
I mean, it was. Looking back at that, the experience is like, wow.
Yeah.
They don't do that today now.
No.
Obviously, back then it was just it was a little, extreme.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's when also Instagram started to blow up.
2013 is when I got one.
Yeah, same.
2013-ish, I think.
2013 is when Instagram started to get bigger.
Did you feel that like when you joined it and you grew a following from that, how long did that take you? Did it take you a long time?
Well, when I was in the Philippines, I hit the 10,000 mark.
Okay.
Which was pretty good because there were mostly Filipinos who were following me because I was doing fashion shows, getting posted in articles, and people are like, oh, who's this model that's in the Philippines? What's his name?
Right.
And so I started like getting a following like that way, which is great. Mm-hmm. And so, anyways, so after the Philippines, I went. I had a FaceTime meeting. So it wasn't FaceTime. It was like Skype, I believe, back then. I think it was Skype. And he asked me because I gained a lot of weight. I would probably say I gained at least 15, 20 pounds of fat. Like I could.
When you were in the Philippines?
I ate so much food.
The Jollibee.
It was the Jollibee. Yeah.
And the donuts. Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah.
So I Skyped him, and he's like, "Oh, how's your body looking?" And
not good.
And so he's like, "All right, I'll just make sure." I took off my shirt, and he was like, "What the fuck happened to you? You look happy." And he's like, "Oh my god, all right." So
now, who was this saying this to you?
My mother agent.
Your mother agent.
My
okay.
mother agent.
Okay.
But as far as like our kind of business relationship, we like to shit on each other, for fun.
Yeah.
But in that case, he was
serious.
Like,
what the fuck did you do?
He's like, what the fuck happened? Like, you were skinny like 3 weeks ago, and now it was like it was the donuts, it was the Jollibee. But even when I was in the Philippines, it got to the point where I was working every single day. I think at one point I was working like 16 days straight.
Wow.
Because I didn't have time to go to the gym. Like
It's a taxing job.
Yeah.
It's not a physically taxing job. So when people hear, oh, you're a model, they think of Cindy Crawford. They think of this glamorous supermodel.
Yeah.
Male modeling is not like that.
Mm-mm.
Even at the top,
No.
which you are.
Yeah.
It's not. It's not. It's not yachts and.
I love.
I mean,
food.
it can be, but there's a lot that goes with that. It's not. It's not.
Yeah.
Like when I think of like a, Cindy Crawford and Naomi Campbell and people being further back when those supermodels in the 80s and 90s, glamorous, wealthy, traveling the world, and you are traveling the world, but for some reason you're in a much different position. It's not. Even with them, it's not as glamorous on the day of when you're working.
The only thing that was different from then till back then was the rates were 10 times more, much better.
Same for photographers.
Yeah. I think the industry in general.
The phones just really just kind of like, oh, I can take that myself.
It's like, oh, yeah. No, nowadays.
You got people talking about, look at how good the Samsung phone, the camera. I don't even need a real camera. I'm like,
look at the iPhone 7, iPhone 4. Look at this quality.
Okay, it is different.
But,
it's good for what you've got in your pocket. It's amazing.
No, definitely.
But it's not the substitute. But okay.
Yeah. Boohoo, man.
When
material.
people say that, I'm just like, all right, yeah. Well, and that's the thing is that most brands, I'm not going down that direction, but most brands want to fool the public now. They don't want it to look too polished. They want, and I learned from a photographer who is polished. I am not going to be putting out stuff that's like got, like cables and shit around because it's organic. It's just like, no, it needs to look a certain way, even if it's raw and not retouched or not adjusted. It just needs to be put together in a certain way.
Take me through the process on like how you do this, because I'm sure a lot of like inspiring people who also want to do like, podcasts and have like a similar setup as you.
It's very easy, to be honest. I first shot my first one. I wanted to do like more of an interview. The whole concept of this was talking to people, letting them tell me who they are and where they've, what they've experienced. Like that's kind of the idea.
Yeah. And
then capturing them in a picture. And so the first one I did was like an interview. I wasn't even on camera. It was more of just on the person. Didn't really work because I felt it was too long. I needed that back and forth. But I didn't want to be in a situation where I wanted to let the other person talk. So I was like, okay, well, how am I going to structure it? So I did it with the 3 cameras. Not everybody there's tons of people with successful podcasts that have 1 camera or 2 cameras. It's about the person. I'm not the interest here. You guys are. So if I'm sitting here and talking, people probably aren't going to be as interested. But you guys having your stories and all those things, it's for me what makes it valuable for me. Okay. And what I hope will be valuable to other people. If it's not, well, oh well. I'm just doing it because I want to let people tell their stories.
Because a lot of podcasts, it's, people could get, inspired by their stories or what it took them to get along. It's also getting to know them more about the person. It's like, man, I kind of want to, he went, like you say, Charlie Matthews went to this direction.
Right.
But I think like, now with things change, maybe there's going to be other ways to go into like a new direction.
I want to hear stories that I would want to hear.
Right.
I want to have episodes that I would want to hear. So when I watch other podcasts and I listen to them and I really enjoy them, there's a lot of them though where sometimes it gets repetitive, and like that's why I'm just doing once a week. I'm not doing 2 or 3 times a week. It's just I think it's just too much.
It's too much. It's time consuming.
And I'm not a comedian, so I'm not. Like there's some that I love and they're comedians and they can do 2-3 times a week because they're funny.
Right.
I'm just sitting here listening to people and I don't want to overdo it. So that was the first thing was recognizing that what I want to do is just what I want to hear.
Right.
The big thing was just making sure they're powered and capable of being powered by like plugged so that they're not running out of battery.
Right.
And then getting the audio equipment, which you can just do audio podcasts too. If you don't have the finances or the ability to do video, you can just do audio. It's a little bit less of an experience probably, but it's okay. But like if someone was trying to create one, and I haven't created a successful one yet, this hasn't even come out yet. Yeah. So by the time this is out, there should be already 4 or 5 of them that have already come out.
Yeah.
But it'll take, if it was to be successful, it would take probably a year or two. That's why I think that anybody who wants to create something like that shouldn't look at it as like something where they want to just be successful in the first week. I'm doing this because it's something for me to hear different perspectives, different people, different stories, different, growing up, and here's where you found this, and it's just interesting to me. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily think that's going to make it a successful podcast or not. It's just, as long as I'm getting something out of it, then I hope the person listening to it gets something out of it.
Yeah.
And if they don't, well, that's okay. But I'm not sitting here with like a goal or questions. I never have questions. I don't really research the person. I just want to hear your story.
It should never be that way. It always happens. It should be authentic.
Yeah.
And story, because whatever comes out, it comes out. You don't want to have play cards, be like, oh my god, because you kind of feel like everything's just going to be staged, and people are not going to feel those like emotions, the affections, and the stories like they could relate.
And I don't have anybody in my life that could, not for any reason other than they just don't have the skills to produce it or to sit there and edit it for me or to do. And I know there are people out there that have really successful podcasts that have, a best friend who's able to do the audio, or they have someone who can, who is a good editor, so he does the cameras and the editing. I do that myself for a living, so that's where I came up with, I wanted to do a photo shoot conversation, like the conversation we had before the photo shoot.
Yeah. For me, when I first started streaming, I didn't have the best looking setup.
And take me through that too, because I don't know a whole lot about Twitch.
So I have, my gaming laptop. And the reason why I bought a gaming laptop, just because, I travel for modeling all the time. I could take it with me, put it in my backpack, and just set up wherever I go. And then, of course, I had my MacBook Pro, and I use that just to read the chat and stuff.
So you have like a two
I have two
thing going.
It's an ugly setup, but hey, it works. It works. And so for my gaming laptop, I stream the game with Streamlabs OBS, which is basically a video capture card that connects straight to your video game that you're streaming on. And so once I start that, then you got promoted, hey guys, I'm live on Twitch, blah, blah, I'm playing Halo or Fortnite, come say hi.
Right.
And then you got your viewers over here, they'll go to your MacBook, you're watching the Twitch stream chat. And
you're responding to them. Yeah,
that's the most important thing, because you want to...
So how do you play games and respond and read a chat?
So...
Does it affect you ever or no?
What I learned is through practice, because you got to find a balance. Like if there's a death, let's say I die in the Halo game, you got 8 seconds to look, and then you just try to spawn like 1 or 2 questions, and you're not going to answer like every single one comment. And then Fortnite, it's more of battle royale, and it's very more slower paced.
Right.
So in between, I'll be like, I'll say, hey Leanna, how's your day? Hey, what's up, Martina? Thank you for stopping by. And then they'll just like ask me like, video game things, so that's what I've been doing. I usually stream about 4 to 6 hours, and then in 2019 I was streaming almost like 7 days a week, and then I was just highly motivated because I enjoy talking with the audience and also doing what I love doing.
Did you do it during like the lockdowns and stuff, or no?
I did a little bit of it, but I wasn't in the right mindset, and I didn't have like the space because everybody was pretty much in the living room sitting around, and I didn't get the privacy I needed. So when I was streaming every day, I think there was a time where I would stream 21 straight days, 21, 22 straight days, like no rest, because I was so happy. It was fun. And it got to the point where for 2 months I was paying off my bills.
Wow.
Like, my rent.
That's when you know it's something.
Things started. It's like, okay, I really believe in this. I was starting averaging from like 4 to 6 viewers, and then to like 25 to 30 viewers. So you started
at 4 to 6 viewers.
Yeah. But, for me, for like an actual average like Twitch streamer, just starting out,
the average person without my social media or anything to promote, it would take probably a couple years to get a thing going. Like Ninja, or those people.
Yeah. Exactly. Like they've been grinding for
years, I'm sure.
Years, like 8 to 10.
Yeah.
Maybe longer.
Yeah.
But, at that stage of my modeling career in 2020, I already had like a large social media to promote things at Twitch, and I had things going a lot easier for me.
Yeah.
People started like noticing, oh yeah, he's a gamer too. He's not just a, pretty face. And he's like, wow, he's actually, good at this.
Yeah.
And so, every day I would post YouTube content. I'll be posting like all my videos, my Fortnite wins, story modes, and I'll just start delivering content out there. Like every day I'll post.
Yeah.
And that was a process too, because you got to post there, you got to post TikTok, Twitter, Instagram stories. And, I mean, it's a lot of work, but you get to learn from these, experiences. And then when lockdown happened, I just completely put it on the side. I just lost. Yeah. Well, I kind of had health problems. I had some really bad back pain, and that kind of took a toll on my health and gaming, because every time I played, I would get back spasms.
Really?
And that's when I remember you telling me about that. My health wasn't at the best. And, I ended up taking a little bit of a break on that, and just been more focusing on my health and fitness. So
yeah, that's probably a good thing.
Yeah. But now...
how many viewers do you get now?
Well, I haven't launched it yet, because I still got my full PC setup. But I'm hoping I could start hopefully next week, because I got a whole new streaming professional setup. Brand new monitor, brand new PC, I got LED lights, new microphone. I'm willing to go
and put it together
all out, and I feel like this is going to be good.
There's that moment. I have the same moment here, and I even it's probably similar for you, but I'm familiar with cameras, I'm familiar with tripods, I'm familiar with. The only thing I wasn't familiar with was audio, but even still having all the boxes and everything, and just that. Okay.
Isn't it exciting?
It's exciting, but it's also
new toys. Yeah.
All right, so where do I start with? How am I going to do this? What am I going to put together? What am I doing?
Yeah.
And that's a very daunting thing sometimes, though, because there's just so much. Especially when I was putting together all this, and I'm YouTubing, how to assemble the audio and how to get the mic to work. I couldn't get the earphones to work. I couldn't get there's all the things that were working. I wasn't connected to the computer. I have to connect to the computer and stuff.
It's
and
a process.
people and then you're watching tutorials, and people are trying to take you, well, and here you're going to open up this, and I'm like, no, I don't need all that. I just need to know, because they're trying to get me the starter, audition and different things, and I'm like, no, I'm not doing a audio only podcast. I'm doing a full on thing, because I know how to do that.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of tutorials for those things, Do
you ever have friends was comment, maybe you should interview this more, or do you have
my best friend was in town and rain checked on me. Yeah, that's how my best friend is. He was like, nah, I'm good. I was like, thanks. I was like, we'll see.
Do you have any more inspiring people who also want see if you're on your podcast?
I don't think I'm well known enough to have people aspiring to do anything with me.
Oh, no, no. I'm sure there's some.
I've had plenty of people want to intern or want to help me at something where I don't. There's a kind of freedom to that, where I don't feel like I don't need to. I'm not at the whim of anybody else. I don't need to go to anybody else for anything. It's nice.
Yeah, I have an interesting topic for you.
What?
So you mentioned that you dropped out of college, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's your thought about this whole education system? Do you believe that, you should get a degree, or do you feel like nowadays this is the year of the entrepreneurship and people are starting to create their own businesses and figure they want to work in their home?
I'm very cautious on this subject because I've had people ask me like what they think they should do.
Yeah, no worries.
And the same answer I would have, like I would never advise someone to drop out.
Yeah.
Because I don't know you well enough to make that choice.
Right.
Like it's a big decision. But if you're not trying to be a dentist or a doctor or a lawyer, you're probably fine.
Yeah.
If it's not for you, like for me, I was at school, and I've told this story before, but I just wasn't into it. It just wasn't. I was a good student. I was good at school. I just wasn't interested in it. I didn't like the fact that I had to sit there and take, another philosophy class as a sophomore in college. It just was like, what am I doing? What do I want to do with my life? I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to. I don't. And when people would ask me, "What do you want to do with your life?" My whole life, I never knew. My brother was more like definitive. It was like, I want to be a firefighter. I want to be a doctor. I want to be this. I want to be a police officer. Whatever. I never was that person. I always had to make things up, just to shut them up.
Same.
Like,
yeah.
I'm thinking about being a lawyer. Fuck no.
Yeah.
I want to be a lawyer. Like in an office and sit in a room and under these like bright lights and just read through, briefs and problems and issues. And some people love it. It's not for me. And so that's what I tell people. It's like, I tell people, like, look, if you feel it's not for you, like, what's the worst that can happen? If you are smart about what you're doing. Now, if you have like a full ride somewhere, maybe you just finish it. Maybe you just take it and it can't hurt. But to me, there's not a lot of value in, going to school unendingly. And what I mean by that is I've known people who get like 2 majors, 3 majors. They go to business school. They go to grad school. They go get a doctorate. They still don't know what they want to do. Their job is essentially going to school. And when your job is just going to school, you're not actually doing anything that's, going to prepare you to actually succeed. And some people would say, well, there's nothing wrong with education. Absolutely not. But you can learn those things on your own. If I wanted to go and take a class to learn, I could go do that right now. I don't need to, I can go research something on my own. I can go to the library, which is a novel concept. You can go read about things if I'm interested and want to learn. You don't need to spend $150,000 for those things unless you're trying to be something specific. Yeah. The entrepreneurship angle is another thing. It's like, it's a case-by-case basis. Maybe you are the one who's going to be the next, Jeff Bezos. But you also might just burn out and it fails. But that's the only way you're going to ever know is if you try. And so when you try and you put everything you have and you're trying to and you plan and do, as much of a good job of preparing yourself for all the possibilities and making sure you can put food on your table and making sure you can live, not just believing in the dream. Were we talking with you about it? Or maybe it was I think it was someone else, but we were talking about that Jake Paul, or was it Logan Paul? Logan Paul, the kid that wanted the job from Logan Paul and quit his job and then went to ask Logan Paul for a job and like cornered him and asked him for a job. And he was like, no. He's like, who are you? Like one of those things where, and it's like this person who had this idea that if I quit this job and I go and do this, then this is going to be like, it's like a fairy tale. And like life doesn't work that way. You can't just because you quit college, you know, doesn't mean you're going to become a success. You have to work and you have to read and you have to research and you have to learn. I had basically learned by doing for 8 years. It took me 8 years to even get to this point. And I'm still not where I want to be. 8 years. You know, and I'm sure you feel the same way. It took you a long time to get to where you are now, and you're still not where you want to even be. And if you're able to stick in it for that long, then I think if you drop out of college, that's at least your problems. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But it's the people that, you know, they do something and then they get tired of it after 2 weeks, or they don't see success within the first year, and so they give up. Then it's like, well, then, yeah, you should have finished college, because you are probably meant for just a basic job and have your hobbies and have your enjoyment and all the things that you want to do. But to make it in an entrepreneurial way, you have to take risk, and you have to spend a lot of time learning and doing things and failing. Like I had I can probably count like 20, 25 businesses that failed. Things that projects that we were a part of, cool things I put money into, things I didn't, things I put time into, things I didn't, that fucking failed. You know, and I always learned something from those things. I learned new skills, I developed new talents, new things, but I mean, full on failure. To where when people ask me at Christmas, how's that thing going? I'm like embarrassed. I'm like, oh, well, that didn't work out. You know, and if we were to have given up on the first one or the second one or the fifth one or the seventh one, I wouldn't have gotten to the 26th one, you know, that's looking out to be a success. And there's things that we're working on right now that are looking to be like, it's a great project to be a part of and a great success. But that could be number 26 too, you know, or it could be the first success story. But we've had plenty of things, and we've had plenty of successes too. I just mean in terms of business.
Yeah.
We've had successes in what we do, but when you try and branch out and create a business,
it's a whole different ballgame.
You're gonna have failures.
Yeah.
And I don't think that school is bad. There's this movement of people now that say it's bullshit, and I don't think that's true. It just depends on what you want to do, and it depends on the person.
Yeah.
You know, if you think that going to college is just going to make the rest of your life just work out, you're going to be in for a rude awakening, because it's not.
Yeah.
You're not going to be, the red carpet's not going to be rolled out after you leave Harvard, you know, or you leave Cal State Fullerton. You know, just because you went to a not that great school in college doesn't mean you can't be successful. And just because you went to a really successful school doesn't mean you're going to be successful. I know people who went to Harvard who they're not doing anything remarkable from growing up. And they probably think I'm a loser for dropping out of school. So right back at you.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. I don't care. But I never draped myself in the dropout title. Maybe if I make it like big and I make a really big success with a business or something, maybe I'll probably lean into it more. But I feel like that's just a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, who cares if you dropped out or not? If I went another 2 years at Pepperdine, would it really have made a difference? Probably not. I just wouldn't have met the people that I met, gone on the journeys and the experiences that I did. I would have been on a completely different life. I wouldn't be sitting here. I'd be somewhere completely different. Doesn't mean it would have been a failure.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't be here. And that's that question. It's like, if you made one change in your life growing up, if rather than when your parents were fighting, rather than going around to the neighbors and collecting money for jobs, and you had instead decided to just really try and stick with baseball, do you think you'd be in the same spot? You know, one different choice.
I think the biggest life-changing choice for me is if my mom didn't file that restraining order on that day, I would never have all this. I wouldn't be sitting here with you. I wouldn't have a modeling career.
Just like a domino.
I would just probably be back in the same town. Possibly, you know, already got my degree. I mean, I got associates, but I'd probably be stuck in the same town, miserable, maybe have a family, maybe have kids. But, you know, sometimes I do some, like, you know, pop-ups on my Facebook, on my, you know, family page. And I look at all my friends and, you know, they all have, you know, wife and kids, which is great, And then there's others where they got their doctor's degrees, they're nurses, they're, you know, firefighters, but they spend all this money on college, like hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, it's going to take for like 5 to 10 years just to get out of this debt.
For what they ended up
doing. And I just
sense.
feel like if you spent your age, like in your 20s, you should be enjoying it, because you're only going to be in your 20s once. And by the time you hit 30, then everything's going to go past. You should just enjoy it, start traveling. And I feel like a lot of my friends in the same town, again, there's nothing wrong with it, but they should experience like what else is out there for you.
Yeah.
Because if you travel and, you know, go to different countries or out of states, you could probably get a different meaning of where life is. And, you know,
it's a challenge. I mean, there's so many decisions that I could have made differently that would have not meant that I'd be here. You know, there's times when I wanted to quit. There's times when there was a failure, or a situation wasn't ideal, and I was like, maybe I should just quit. Maybe I should just go back to school. Maybe I should go. But then, you know, when you do, it's like that stupid meme with the diamond, you know, the guy like digging for diamonds. It's like exactly that. If you quit before you succeed, well, then that's it. Like, you're going to go back to where you were, and you just need to be okay with that.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those things where I would recommend people travel, and but not everyone has the means to travel.
Yeah.
Like, and necessarily the ability to find a way to travel like we did. But that doesn't mean that you can't, you know, experience. I do like the way the European schools tend to be, like, they take a break for a year.
Free education.
Well, that too. But I mean, they do instill in them, though, after high school, they take a break for, I think, a year. And it's like that's their time to figure out what they want to do. Versus here, it's like, hey, kids, sign here. You're going to go to school here for 4 years. You can just be undeclared. It's fine.
Yeah.
Like, that's the dumbest thing to me. Going to school, not knowing what you want to do, not even having a clue. At least in my position, I didn't know what the fuck I wanted to do. And if anything, the things that I wanted to do, which was like art and different things, was constantly told, yeah, but you can't make a living off that. Which is probably fair, you know, but it wasn't like anybody was trying to help me do that. So then you go, well, and there's other things I was interested in. So, like, let's try science. Let's try going to school for, you know, being a doctor, or being this, or you know, occupational therapist or something like that. And there's a whole host of things that go with that like, you get tired of the same thing every day. And that was what I started to learn about myself, you know, in college especially. I found that I get really bored. I don't want to do this every day. I don't know people who, I'm sorry. I don't understand people, and hats off to them, because I mean, it's a skill I don't have. We're okay hard. Doing the same thing every day.
It's, you know, and it's definitely harder for a lot of families in their situations too, because you got, you know, like mothers and fathers who are waking up like 7 o'clock in the morning, driving in traffic to work,
spending 4 hours of your day in the car,
spending 4 hours a day in your car. Then you're in the office from like 9 to 6, drive all the way back, get home for dinner, and then repeat it the next day.
Right. That's the crazy thing to me too, is that like that was kind of the what happened to me, was that I was at school and I just kind of panicked. I was like, I don't want to be in an office the rest of my life. Like, I was in one of those rooms in school, because like my school had like smaller classes, and I was in an empty room waiting because I was early, and it looked like an office, and I was just like, I don't want to be here. I was in Malibu. It wasn't like it wasn't pretty. It was beautiful outside. Yeah. It was hot. It was nice. It was
Pepperdine.
It was the thing that everybody thinks that they want, and then you're there and you're like, I fucking hate it. You know, I fucking hate it. And then it's like, how do you go tell people, I hate it, I'm gonna go home, I don't want to be here. I don't even want to go home. I just don't want to be here. And so then I tried a stepping stone school where I knew more people, and thought, well, maybe it's the environment. You know, maybe it's the environment. Maybe it's just maybe I'm just being ridiculous. Maybe I don't know anybody, and that's why. And then I went to a school where I did know people, and didn't enjoy that either. You know.
Yeah.
And so it was just, and then that's when I just realized this is what I want to do. And I don't care if I fail. I don't care if I'm broke and nothing came of anything. I just don't want to be doing this. And we need doctors and we need engineers. It's just not me.
Well, good thing if you were not a doctor or a nurse, you didn't have to go through COVID, because that would probably have been your most stressful moment in your career.
Yeah.
But,
and all they got was like round of clapping. It was like,
man, it's
the most patronizing thing you could possibly do to someone who's stressed and tired and underpaid.
You know, it's
thank you so much for your contribution. It's like, okay, well, it's like the teachers. It's like, you know, they're like, they make like nothing. And then people are like, they're already overpaid. I'm like, are they really? They have to deal with your dumbass kids every day.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean,
God.
I would pay them double to take some of your kids. You know, but it's never. It's imagine. I mean, those are people that do things because they're passionate about it. I mean, you be a nurse because you're passionate about it.
Because you want to help people.
You want to help people.
You want to help people. Which, nothing wrong with that.
But then I think the reality of how people are sets in, and I think there is an easy way for you to slowly become like tired of it. I have to imagine there's burnout. There's you get tired of just tired of dealing with you all the time.
Stress.
You know, and it's just it's crazy. It's a crazy thing. But the only way you'll ever know is if you do take those chances and you do quit and you do go, do what you're dreaming to do.
Yeah.
But that doesn't guarantee you're going to succeed.
Well, my mom was always pressuring me to go back because she always thought that this modeling thing could only last.
Yeah. And that's reasonable. I mean, which
is like absolutely, I completely understand, because she was always peer pressuring me to finish my last 2 years, just because, first couple of years of modeling were just like pretty slow.
And you got to a point that was, maybe because of that competitive streak from your upbringing and everything, but you did get to a point that was international success. You were traveling, you were succeeding, a lot of models don't ever reach that point. Even a successful model, you reached a point that was much further than what most would.
Well, it got to the point where my mom got off my back and she realizes, like, damn, this is actually real. It's like, something. Man, he fucking did it. Yeah. Like, got to that point. So back to like where I started. So after the Philippines, I got fat. I had to lose a lot of weight, come back to LA for 2 weeks, and then I signed with IMG in New York. And stay there for 2 months, stay in a model's apartment. Model's apartment was a thing back in the day. It's not like Airbnbs. It's now.
It's like 10 people living in an apartment.
So the thing is about this, I was staying at Long Island. It was 2 bedrooms, bunk beds, and there was only Wi-Fi box. There was no furniture, just beds, no couch, completely blank. It was new, and I was paying like $1,500.
And how many you were in there?
4. It was 4. I made some good friends, but I don't think they model anymore. So this was like 2014, first time in New York City. Exciting. So I went IMG New York, and then first month didn't book a job. Second month didn't book a job up until the last couple of days. And that's when I started realizing I don't think I could be in this industry. I don't think, I'm having those like second thoughts. Like I don't think it's a very competitive industry, and
right.
And I did a cattle call with Target and Nautica, and there was some models in there like Shauna Pry, Francisco Lebowski, a lot of big models that like I knew, and I'm like, oh crap, I'm going up against them.
Yeah.
And so I was getting ready to book my plane ticket, got a call from my agent, and he's like, "Hey, you booked a Nautica campaign, my first ever like goal campaign."
Yeah.
And then following a Target campaign, I booked that, and then I booked another job the last 3 days. I didn't know what Nautica was at the time, but you know, the brand, like I looked at, I was like, oh, I know that symbol.
It had
like,
a resurgence around the
it's
time.
It's a pretty good.
Yeah.
It's a good brand. It's a
Yeah.
good brand. Shot that in Montauk for a couple of days, and since then, things started to you know, get better.
Mm-hmm.
And I went back to LA, signed with 2 Management. I was with 2 Management for about 4 years, about 3-4 years. And then I started booking e-com like once a week, which was great. And then my first big magazine I shot was Arena On Plus, and they flew in this photographer in London. And so I shot the first day. It was like Hollywood theme, Hollywood boy. And then the second day they shot Lucky Blue Smith. And the third day they shot another guy. And so once the images came out, Jeremy Scott DM'd me on Instagram. He was like, hey, you know, my name is Jeremy Scott, and I was wondering, you know, I would love to, you know, work with you. You were wearing my pink latex outfit in the gas station in the middle of a ghetto area where people are screaming at you like, well, what the hell are you wearing? Put on some clothes. And they're just like slurring out words and stuff. And I didn't know who Jeremy Scott was. And, you know, I Googled him a little bit, and his work was out there. So he was doing a collaboration with Adidas for a lookbook. And the female model was Sarah Sampaio. And she was an upcoming Victoria's Secret model. And she she became like the face of the brand and became one of the regular Angel girls. Yeah. So I get on set, and it was about like an 8-hour shoot. And they had a choreographer, and we had to do all these like crazy shapes, and my ass was hurting by the end of this because I'm just kept jumping, and I had to do all these like crazy shots of like the outfits and logos. We did some like 90s grungy like videos where I just, you know, play around with like the camcorder, and you know, it was that kind of it was like that kind of like vibe. And so, you know, like after that, things started to, you know, pick up for me. I did like, you know, a little bit of like smaller like e-com jobs, and then fast forward to 2014, I ended up leaving IMG and I signed with Soul. And I did this like casting for this undisclosed celebrity that I'm going to be shooting with for Marie Claire. And I think this is what things started to like really take off for me. And so, you know, I was with the photographer Kaisi Fang, and I had to do some yoga poses in my underwear. And I'm like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Yoga poses? Yeah. Like, what kind of shoot are we doing? And it's like, oh, I can't say the celebrity. I'm sorry. So I did it. And I got the job. So they used me and then this African-American model. We get on set. We took a bus shuttle from New York City to Philadelphia. And the call time was at 9. We were waiting for the celebrity to come. And she didn't show up at 1 o'clock, and it was Nicki Minaj. Nicki Minaj. And I'm just like, oh, cool. She comes in the room, is like, what up, y'all? Sorry if I'm late. And it's like, okay, I'm ready to get the shoot going. So I'm standing like,
she has such a distinct voice,
very distinct voice.
You could hear her and you just would know that's Nicki Minaj.
Yeah, like, that's Nicki Minaj. Like, she's like energy and all. So anyways,
I like her, but yeah.
But you know, back then she was like in her prime. Like, she was like, oh my gosh, she was the Cardi B. Right.
That was
2014.
Yeah.
Like, she had she was on the way up. And so, you know, I'm sitting on this couch with this other model, Justin.
They're always late. Anyway,
they're always late.
That level of celebrity.
So they had a makeup and personal dress in the back, and it took her about 4 hours to get ready.
Mm-hmm. That's
the stylist is not allowed to go back there. By the time they tried on the dresses, none of the clothes fit her. So like, oh shit! So we got to order clothes 3 o'clock in the morning, wait for them to arrive. And then she decided, oh, I don't want to put on these. Let's just get naked and have fun. Like, just like, like exactly in that voice. And so we did this shoot, and she chose like the model. It was me against the black model. And she chose me because she was like, oh, it's just this blue-eyed boy. Hey, handsome. And, okay, the first shot is like, she was like touching my lips, like we were kissing. And then she had her hand like on my body, getting the shot. And then she's like, oh my God, I fucking love this, y'all. Then she got completely naked. And she got on top of me for this, like, I don't know. Because I think back then it was like, there was a trend, it was like women should have more power than men.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it was like that kind of trend.
A lot of times too.
It was like wage, something dealing with they should get the equal amount of salary. It was something kind of like in the politics. So that's what Marie Claire was trying to go for.
I see. Okay.
And so we shot that. She goes through like the computer. She's like, oh my God, fuck me right in the ass. I love this. Oh my God, when can we post it? And then Kaizi's like, oh my God, I'm so glad we were over this shoot. And we didn't finish until like 8 o'clock in the morning. And I had to shoot the next day. So from the shuttle to Philly, I went straight to the next shoot for the jeans job.
Oh no.
So I was already up for like 37 hours,
Exhausted.
pounding 12 cups of coffee, and my mind is just like, I'm just like
you're
swaying.
in a daze.
They knew. It was like, oh, what happens? Like, oh, I was at a photo shoot all night with Nikki. So fast forward, the pictures come out, and that's when my social media started to blow up because everyone thought that I was dating her. So I had like my 15 minutes of fame for that short period because Meek Mills was in jail at the time.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay,
he was in
that was
jail
around the same time.
for something, and they were dating, and they're like, oh my God, like who's this?
Who's this guy?
Who's this guy?
She's
Because she
with?
posted me. She posted me, and then she liked and commented my photos, and everyone's like, oh my God. He's like, oh,
Is that her?
He's like, that fucking white guy's lucky. That should be me. Blah blah blah.
Oh my God.
And so it started, the trend, and I ended up getting like 100,000 followers, and then I was getting a bit more work and publicity because of it. It wasn't good publicity, actually. It was, I was getting like hateful messages where people want to kill me just because,
it happens.
wish it
I get
happens.
those.
But that was like one of my most iconic moments, like highlights in the industry. Shooting with like a celebrity like that naked, because not many people say, "Oh, I had Nicki Minaj's tits on my back."
Yeah,
naked.
And she was like not uncomfortable. She loved
was into
it.
Yeah. She was into it. Like she was
my God.
feeling it. She was feeling it. So yeah, I was in New York during that time, and then fast forward that I left to management to go over to DT because my mother agent went over, and that's when the whole Guess era began.
Yeah,
and 2007, I believe it was 2017. I know my mother agent was pushing me to get into working for Guess, and at the time they kept saying no. They kept trying and trying. I was like, okay, finally they got me in. So I just did like 1 day of econ. They're like, oh, went great. They booked me again for a lookbook tomorrow. And then I started to get into like the rotation. Like they started using me a little bit. Then I went to Australia, and then came back. And then I was booking econ for like 2 years. For like 2 years for Guess, which was like, all right, okay. And I'm hoping that one day I get that phone call. It's like, all right, you're up for the campaigns. And again, at the time, he was like, oh, no, he's not right for the campaigns yet and stuff like that. But the advertisement department is like, pushing me. He's like, he's great. I promise you should use him. You should use him. And so Guess, they're the type of company is if you're loyal to them, they'll be loyal to you. And
that's good to know.
As long as you go to, because they invite me to a lot of events, I make sure I go to a lot of events. I make sure I mingle and talk to everybody. And then I get this one call. It was on a Saturday, and I haven't seen my grandma in about 12 years, I would say. She flew in from Switzerland here. Big family reunion. I get a phone. Phone. Face down like this. And I get a message from my agent, and I would say, hey, what you're doing right now? And it's like, oh, I'm just, chatting with my family. Just catching up with my grandma.
What is it? What's going on? Why are you calling me right now?
And I was like, okay, well, you could just tell them you're going to be the new face for Guess.
Oh, my God.
And then I dropped the phone, and I just screamed, and I'm like, Mom, I'm going to become the new face for Guess. Like, I booked my first
global thing.
Global campaign. And my mom and grandma, they're like, I'm so proud of you. My baby's going to be a Guess. It's like that, like tone, and everybody cries, like, oh my God. So I get on set, I'm just like, wow, I'm actually here. This is... I never thought I was going to become a Guest guy, honestly. I mean, I looked through the ads and stuff. I was like, man, that guy is cool. I was like, maybe one day. But I never back in my mind I would be, Guest.
Yeah.
Like, shoot a campaign for them.
Yeah.
And then I shot with them. It was great. And Paul was like, this is one of the best campaigns we shot in a very long time. And then 6 months later, I got put on 3 options for fragrances, which was like the dream, like the holy grail for, booking those
and alcohol.
6 figures, fragrances and alcohol. The first one was Perry Ellis.
Okay.
The second one was Victor and Rolf Spice Bomb, which was my dream campaign, because I looked up just Sean O'Pry when he shot that. It was just like one of the black and white photos. Like, I want to be that guy. And the third one was Guess. So they both said Victor and Rolf decided they booked a UK model due to their following. Perry Ellis says not this time. He looks too young. And then
that's an interesting thing too about that, is that you had to grow as a person, literally. Like, I mean, you were too young probably.
Because at the time when the feedback that I would get, he's too young, try to get old, or he's too old, try to get young,
right.
Like that kind of thing. Like, they're very particular.
At the time, you were
too boyish,
trying to dress yourself up.
Exactly.
And you needed to actually be 26, 25, not
exactly.
Not 19,
exactly.
trying to look 25.
Yeah. So I get a call, and I was like, so, we heard about Guess, the fragrance, and, they're still thinking about it. I don't know it's going to go through. And I'm just like, oh, man, that sucks. And then he hanged up the phone on me, and he texted me 3 words. You booked it. I got on my knees, and I was like breaking down, crying, because I'm just like, holy shit, this is actually... Get it? This is like, I did it.
Yeah.
Like, it was the best feeling. Like, because for me, I never set the bar high for myself. I always, had a low self-esteem, because I feel like I don't think I could get to that point. Yeah. But now it's just like all these dreams and thinking about it is actually, wow, this is happening. Yeah. I'm actually going to have like a legit modeling career. After that campaign, I ended up shooting 3 more campaigns after that. And then soon, I guess, I became the face of the brand. And I've been the face of Guess like the last 5 years, which has been amazing. But I say the biggest highlight of my career that I'm never going to forget, I'm going to probably break down. But Guess had a launch party in Hollywood. No Vacancy. Have you heard of it?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Where you go upstairs, the bed moves, and you go down, and then there's the bar. And it was like a party where they had like my face on the pillows, the fireplace.
Wow.
And I have the footage too. And everybody was there just to celebrate the campaign that, I shot, me and Kelsey. And then the one most important person in my life was my mom witnessing it.
She was there.
She was there, and yeah, all right, I'm gonna cry.
You want to take a second?
No, I'm good. We'll keep going.
I have a Kleenex too if you need.
And this was so important for me because I just want to see her face, because going from where I started to how much we struggled till we got like a new life now. Just seeing her face was like the greatest thing.
Yeah.
The greatest thing in my life. And I just wanted her happy and see, Mom, we fucking did it. We fucking did it. Like, I took the long route. It's just seeing her face and break down and cry. And like, she's just like, my boy, you fucking did it. And I'm so, so proud of you. I'm in like awe. Like, I'm sorry.
No, don't worry about it. You're not the first person to.
Yeah. And just her standing in the corner and just seeing everybody and just looking at her reaction and just seeing her cry. And it was the best moment in my life. Like, I swear, it was amazing. And that feeling's like, I'm going to live with that the rest of my life. And that's the only thing that I care about. I think about that moment every day. And now she's in a better place. She's the happiest she's ever been. And she knows that I'm doing really good. And, there's a lot to be thankful for. And, I think that right there was just the icing on the cake. I don't think nothing else is going to top that. That one memory and moment was the best thing that's ever, like, I would sacrifice everything just to have that moment.
Priceless.
It was priceless. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
Take a second.
Don't be sorry. We'll take a second.
Yeah.
All right, so we're back.
All right. So after the fragrance, we were supposed to go on a tour where we get to promote the product to the press. And we were supposed to go to New York, Lugano, Switzerland, and a few other places. So we always top in the year, like, all right, this is going to be our year.
Right.
2020. Ready to go in full throttle. And I was getting ready to travel, and then I booked like my dream cover, which was Men's Health Serbia, and just to represent, because I'm Serbian.
You're Serbian,
I'm
right?
Serbian.
Your last name's Serbian. You have family in Switzerland, but you're Serbian.
My dad's side of the family is from Serbia, Yugoslavia, and I was like, man, dream cover is just like a Men's Health cover. Like, this is what I want. Like, I loved it, and then COVID happened, and of course, with everybody, it's changed a lot of people's lives. And then lockdown, it was tough. We had to postpone a lot of things, and I eventually did book the Victor and Rolf Spice Bomb.
Nice. And
they postponed it.
Oh.
Because of the lockdown.
Yeah.
They tried again in July, they postponed it, and then they used somebody else. But
you did book it though. That's gotta feel good, at least.
Yeah, and I mean in emails,
but
they didn't eventually use me. But hey, you never know what's gonna happen in the future.
Yeah.
So lockdown happened, and then of course everybody went through weird situations mentally, and they just feel like you can't do this anymore or whatever. And I always felt like I'm at that part of my life, like, what can I do after a fragrance? Like, I've reached my dream goal. What else can I do? And at the time, I didn't really have like a backup plan, because now, 2020, I was 28 years old, and I'm getting to the point, I'm getting older, and there's going to be newer faces coming up, and I have to find ways where I can have like a second career, like a stable, like money, like what can I do? And you know, I thought about doing Twitch, but Twitch, it's going to take a lot of time and it's going to take a lot of work.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to think, like, what am I good at? And I've always been good at numbers, because math was actually like actually it was the strongest subject in school.
For you. Yeah.
For me, yeah. And I was like, all right, how can I make good money? What can I do? And I got in the stock market, and I tried to think, like, started doing YouTube videos, like just watching videos of people. How do you become a day trader? Or, you know, how you learn about these companies, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. And so I was like, all right, got my unemployment checks, and I started, you know, investing in companies. Started reading charts, educate myself more and more. Every day I would just learn. And I got to the point where I was making a pretty good amount of money, like really good for like what I had. And so I started investing in companies. I make like, you know, a couple $100 a week, and then put a little bit more. I was like, all right, wow, maybe I could possibly do this full time if I really want to, like, commit myself. And I enjoyed it. I love reading about how companies can change the world. I learned, you know, how the market gets affected by, you know, news, politics, and, you know, what else is going on.
Right.
And so that's what I did. I learned how to, you know, dabble in the stock market, become a day trader, and use all like my savings and put money into it and just let it grow over time. Then I got into crypto. I did the same thing. And then in the back of my head, I'm just like, all right, you know, I can't wait for another modeling job to come, or that's going to pay me. I can't wait for another check that, you know, to come in the mail from Guess. So I decided, I was on the fence, and I was on the edge of it, to launch an OnlyFans. And I'm like, all right, this is a good way to see how it works out.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen. Like, at the lowest, I don't know how much I'll make a month, but maybe just some out for like a day rate for like an econ job or like a lookbook. And it blew out my expectations. I'm just like, wow, people actually like this. And I started to make like, you know, comfortable amount of money, and I've been putting it a lot into investments. And so 3 months into OF, one day I came up with something at the back of my head. I was like, wow, you know, came up with like another idea. What if I, you know, since I have this like platform on social media, the amount of connections I made over time, that I can invest into like maybe in-house and doing a production studio where I could just rent it out to, you know, brands, influencers, and agents flying the models. I give them a cut. And it's still like part of the entertainment business and, you know, the modeling world, or we call this influencer, like influencer. And I became really passionate about it, and I've been very like motivated to, you know, do this as like a long-term plan. I believe it could go really well. Like I said, if I'm going to buy, you know, in a real estate, it's got to be at like the right time, at the right purchase. But now I'm just like the point of my life where I want to transition out to modeling and, you know, work on like other things. I still want to resume my Twitch career, which is I bought like a whole new like setup and everything. And that's something I really, really enjoy about. And then also, you know, I could still save money from doing, you know, my production studio, you know, over time. So now it's just like I'm just taking it, you know, day by day, and just try to continue to stay consistent, work on my platforms, and, you know, do whatever I can to have like a, you know, this, you know, be successful at a second career. So yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
I mean, that's an amazing journey, you know?
It has, yeah.
It's been an amazing journey for you and for so many people to witness, and
yeah,
to get to hear about it again.
It's actually the first time this is my first podcast I've done, and how first time like telling my entire story from where I started to like where I became now.
Well, thank you for doing it with me.
Well, thank you for having me.
Of course.
This is gonna be memorable.
I mean, everyone should know how to find you, but tell everybody how to find you.
Yeah, well, you could find me on my social medias, Instagram.com/Charlie M. Matthews, YouTube.com/Charlie M. Matthews 015. You can find me on social media.
And then your Twitch is coming out.
Twitch,
hopefully. By the time this is out, I think your Twitch
will be out. Twitch.tv/Shocken, SH0CK3, capital N.
There you go.
So,
all right. Well, that's a good way to end it.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Cheers to that.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.
Right.
Thanks for having me.
Cool.